Well, hello, welcome back to Redcord Draft Battle Reviews. Sorry for the delay on this. Classes started this week, so I've been a little all over the place, but we're here now. I got three battles for you today. I have Cable versus Noodle. I have Birds versus Waffles. Yes, I'm featuring Waffles as... Oh, shit, what did I just do? Yes, I'm featuring Waffles' battle again. I don't know what it is. He just makes good battles, I guess. I don't know. And then finally, I have Raven King versus Excelsior last. Um, yeah, I mean, let's just get right into it. So first we have Cable versus Noodle. Um, yeah, and we can see right away. Let's get right into the prep here. So Cable's team, let me see, because I am on a different laptop as I'm recording this, so I got to make sure that my formatting is right. So we can see Cable's team right here, and then Noodle's team is to the left, right over here. Okay, can I get both of these in frame? Yes, I can. Awesome. Let's do it like that. So we got the two teams here and here. So if we get right into the prep, we could see... Actually, let's not look at the six that they brought. Let's just do a little analysis. So if you're Noodle, Ting Lu is coming because there is a Tapu Koko. Plain and simple. That's just happening, right? We don't even have to think about that, right? But what else do you do from there, okay? One of the annoying things about this matchup is Ditto, for sure. And Ditto makes it so that you have to... Your prep is kind of forced a lot. First, like... I'm trying to... Yeah, because Ditto can force a lot of prep in terms of you don't want to get reverse swept by your own guys. For example, Superior would not be, like, the greatest spring, though it is kind of walled out by Dirge. But if you end up clicking Terra, that could be really bad. So, I'd expect maybe Serp to not happen as much. Now, one thing to know, and that my mind just jumps to this because this ends up coming up in the battle, is that Hitmonlee when Unburden procs, you get double speed, right? That is not copied by Ditto. Ditto's Unburden works separate. So if Hitmonlee procs its Unburden and then Ditto comes in and transforms into it, it will be slower. The Ditto will be slower because its Unburden will not have procced yet. Other than that, I feel if you're Noodle, you're also just very standard. Definitely bringing... yeah, you're just bringing your top four, like, almost always. I don't see a reason why you wouldn't, exactly. I feel like Tarap is really easy here. I think it's probably, like, a Dark Pulse. Probably a bit of a more, like a Rocks set than an offensive set. I feel like having a more offensive set and then getting traced by Dit, or getting transformed into Unditto would be really bad for you, unless you're, like, CM leftovers, but no one ever runs leftovers to rap, so that's not ever happening. You could maybe do like a Resto Chesto or like a Rest Sleep Talk to rap, and rest back to Terra Shell over and over, but that's a little out there, I feel, and you still have to contend with, I believe, does Sinistra get Haze? I don't know, but I know Tentacruel does. So both of those mons also do really well into Tarap in general. Sinistra basically forces you into running Dark Pulse, and then Tentacle just has such a monster spit F stat that, like, it can really play around you pretty easily. Outside of that, you've Tinglu. I mentioned that if I'm Noodle, that's the first one I put on the team, just because there's a Coco. It also does, like, wonders. It very easily beats out Iron Crown. It's an easy switch to Moltres. That's actually probably about it, low key, but it helps with Jugulus, even though I would probably not think Jugulus is coming here. You're bringing Pex probably with Haze to beat Komodo, would be my guess. Unless it's like Terraground Earthquake Komodo with D-Dance. Even then, you could just put a Shuka on it. I feel like Haze Pex just kind of a layup, like, easy way to stop the Komodo, stop all its millions of different sets. You would like something to punish Coco from coming in, but I do feel like just a simple Scald would do that, so actually, it's more of a moot point. But yeah, again, if I am Noodle, I'm probably bringing my top four here, and then from there, I don't really know, actually. The Hitmonlee Unburden is an idea. I would be very nervous to run Megazard X, because look at Megazard X into Noodle's team. Unless you pick maybe a Terra Fairy Dirge or something, I guess then it's fine. I think then you can play around it, or maybe like a no Dragon move Megazard X. Maybe like a defensive Roost Megazard X would be what I would bring. Yeah. That sounds correct. And then really any of these bottom five, I'd be a little nervous about Serp. I probably wouldn't want to bring Serp, but other than that, I do feel almost any of those bottom four could be good. Let me see. Well, actually, I definitely wouldn't bring Electrode. So between Staraptor, Arboliva, and Hitmonlee, you could pretty much bring anything. I feel like we do see Noodle ends up bringing Hitmonlee, which has a very creative set. But I will adjourn. Let's think about Cable's team here, right? You have this fat fucking ass core that you have to get through. How do you get through it? Okay, well you need a Komodo set, right? I know what the Komodo set he ended up bringing is. I would rather not speculate on what the optimal set is because there's so many fucking Komodo sets that you could possibly run. Um, that I do think it's really hard, especially with the Terra Skeletors. It's really hard to predict. I do think if it was me, I'd probably do Terra Ground D-Dance with Earthquake would be my choice here. And then like Expert Belt or something. Because otherwise I don't see how you ever get through that Toxapex with a Komodo, right? We'll see Cable ends up bringing. I'm probably bringing Ditto. Just because it does so much for me. In this matchup, I feel like. If he doesn't have Terra Fairy Dirge and I transform into a Megazord X with Dragon moves, I win on the spot, pretty much. Other than that, I would bring Coco for sure. I'd bring Crown. I'd probably bring Moltres. It switches into Dirge quite nicely. Yeah. And then, do you bring Sinistcha? Yeah, you bring Sinistcha. You bring Sinistcha for Terapagos. So let's see. We're bringing these top three. We're bringing Sinistcha. We're bringing Ditto. What do you bring from there? You could bring Moltres, but who does Moltres beat? I mean, I said it beats Dirge, but if it's a weird Terra, that could be really annoying. And you don't really do anything to Dirge, so you don't actually really beat it. And then you get swapped in by Tinglu, Toxapex. You're really actually not doing a whole lot in this matchup outside of hardwalling Serp. But I feel like Crown can already do that himself. So I do think you check off Moltres in this matchup. What about Mamoswine? Mamoswine beats Tinglu, Pex, and Dirge until it Terras. So I would probably bring Mamo here. But if you don't bring Mamo, you don't bring Rapid Spin on Tentacruel. So maybe what you do instead is drop Ditto for Tentacruel and Mamoswine. You could do that, or you run Pivot Coco, Boots, Roost, Defog your turn. That's probably what I would end up doing, just because I tend to play my Cocos a lot more defensive than most people. But yeah, I think you could flip between, but you definitely need to bring removal, because otherwise Noodle's just going to put up everything with Tinglu and not care. So as we get into the battle, we see here that Noodle actually ends up bringing the Superior, so it doesn't really care about getting transformed into at all. But if you look at this team, like the other thing with Serp is it could put up a sub as well, so it's not the worst thing in the world, and it means you're a good you're a solid Coco switch, because Coco doesn't really like grass types. I mean, yeah, it's an electric. This is obvious, but whatever. And then we see Cable ends up going no Mamoswine, instead brings raw Tentacruel. So if I'm Noodle, I'm thinking, okay, what does Tentacruel do here? It's just Rapid Spin, right? It's just Rapid Spin. It doesn't wall any of these guys. It dies to EQ from Tinglu. It's not really 1v1ing to Rap unless it's Haze, which I believe it gets Haze. I hope I'm not wrong about that. I hope I'm not just making that up. I'm not going to go and open my showdown, because if I open my team builder to check, I will leak my the team that I built for Danny 9, which would not be good. Total brain fart. Yeah, so we got Megazord X. That's really threatening it into Cable's team, except we see that it is Fairy Komodo, which is quite interesting. Again, I'd probably go with a more like Terra Ground Earthquake would be my set of choice. But we also see from Noodle, there's actually no Toxapex either. I just noticed that. Yeah, there's no Toxapex either, so actually he does not care. And instead he's running Terra Bug Skeledirge. Now, what could that possibly be for? Well, first of all, we know it's Boots, right? Don't even need to think. It's Boots on Skeledirge. Cool. What else? Well, if it's Terra Bug, he's probably guessing that most of Komodo's coverage doesn't hit Bug. And if you're Cable and we're looking at Noodle's team, why would you ever run fire coverage? Like, Serp isn't bulky enough. Arbalva is weak to fighting moves, which is a stab, so you might as well bring that. You have almost no reason to bring fire moves to beat it. So what else? What else is Bug weak to? Rock, flying. Why would Kamo have any of those? Any of those? Kamo, the only rock move Kamo usually runs, like ever, is Stealth Rocks, and that's if it's defensive, which we do not care about as a Bug type with boots. Um, what else? I said flying. I don't think I've ever seen a Kamo with flying moves ever. I don't, unless you're Terrafly Terrablast, which I don't know if you're Noodle and you get like, I guess if you look at this team, flying is really good, but that's not what Kamo does. He doesn't click Terrablast Fly. Um, so Bug is a great call because now you have a Bug type with Unaware. You can beat pretty much any setup sweep with Kamo. So my Terraground Earthquake set would have been pretty shit here. Full disclosure. But the other thing to note is it's a Bug type. What happens when Cable hard swaps the Ditto in on Skeledirge and starts clicking fire moves himself? Now he's forced to switch. So now, we'll see the contingency that Noodle has for that later, of course. But besides that, the other reads we can make before we really get started with this battle is we see Fairy Komodo. Fairy doesn't do a whole lot offensively into this team. I mean, sure, you hit Ting-Lu, but you already hit Ting-Lu with fighting moves. Yeah, I mean, it's real nice defensively. It helps with Megazard X. That's about it, actually. But if I'm Noodle, I'm probably thinking that this Kamo is probably more of a defensive set than offensive, because I feel with Kamo, you very often want to use your Terra offensively to gain more stab into something. I mean, you could totally use it defensively to eat a hit and then set up and sweep, but especially in this matchup where there's an unaware Skeledirge, if he's not bringing a Terra that gives him that stab in order to bust through unaware, it's very unlikely that he's bringing an offensive set, right? So I'm probably thinking, okay, it's probably more defensive Kamala this time. Maybe the Terra is more likely to be on Iron Crown this time around. Maybe that's where he wants it, or maybe that's just a threat, because also Terra Water does look pretty shit in this matchup, but that's besides the point. But that is something you could start to think about. Other things, we see Sinistra. We already know that that's coming in on Terrapagos every single time. I don't know what you do if you're superior here. I think you just Glare Max. So, yeah. And then we see Hitmonlee. This is clearly some unburdened shenanigans, right? It's clear that Noodle is running unburdened with something in order to outplay this Ditto, right? I say clear, but it's very unclear what the specific set could be. It could be Bulk Up, it could be Swords Dance. You have no idea what consumable item he's running to proc that unburden. It could be Lumberry and bait like a Will-O-Wisp or a Scald. I say Will-O-Wisp, but I mean like Matcha Gotcha or Scald Burns from either of those guys. It could be Citrus, it could be Salak, it could be anything, right? We'll see later on what it ends up being, but this Hitmonlee all of a sudden could be an issue. Because with one Swords Dance, what does this Hitmonlee do, right? It gets Poison Jab, it gets HJK or CC, either or, and it gets Knockoff, right? That covers the whole team in this scenario. Even the Fairy Komodo, if it is running P-Jab. I guess it doesn't cover Tentacruel, but if your Tentacruel gets low enough, that could be a major issue. But even that knockoff, like, Tentacruel doesn't take physical hits very well, so this Hitmonlee is quite scary. Anyways, we see Coco let out versus Ting-Lu. I mean, this is very standard. We're leading the Hazard Setter, and we're leading the Big Pivotmon. We're going to go hard Sinistra, click a Matcha Gotcha as the rocks come off. Again, this is all very standard. Not much to say here. We see Serp actually come in on this. Now, this is interesting. I should have paused, but I was going to say, this means it must be knockoff if we're coming in on the Sinistra. This tells me that Noodle is worried a little bit about Calm Mind, and this is potentially more like a defensive type of Serp. Maybe like it's a knockoff Leech Seed in order to beat Sinistra. Though that wouldn't exactly beat Sinistra on its own. Knockoff is pretty clear, just to get rid of items, because I mean, you're not mashing Leaf Storm into a Sinistra. You must have something, right? But we see Cable start to just click Calm Mind, right? So we're going to see that Noodle goes to Skeledirge right after and takes a massive hit with the Spit F drop. That's awful, but interestingly enough, we see the Serp switch out, probably after seeing that the knockoff did pennies and that the item is gone, Serb has no other way to hit this unless it's fucking like natural gift with a flying berry, which is not happening ever. So, um, we see the spit F drop from Dirge, which means one, you took that hit. Now you have to swap again, or you could go bug. Cable actually decides to swap here, and then eats the soundproof roar, which is a very interesting sequence here. So, um, all right, let me do brain math because I just assumed something and I should not have. You go bug. You will take half the damage. You'll take about 25% instead of 53, or let's round it up to 26. You're unaware. You don't care for the boost. So Cable is worried that this is going to hit a fat Shadow Ball into him, and it's going to do a shit ton of damage, whatever you have it, right? With the Spadaf drop, instead of doing 26 times 0.67 your Spadaf, so give it like, it's probably going to be more like 34-ish to 35. So it's not going to kill if you Terra, and Cable knows this. He's got a calc on this side, as a lot of us end up having, especially me. I abuse the fuck out of it, but whatever. We see the Shadow Ball, it gives the drop, and yeah, threatening Terra Bug into Shadow Ball. Cable pretty much does have to switch here. Sorry, I let that go way too fast, and I am still pea-brained from my classes. So we're going to see Terra Bug, and instead of clicking a fat Shadow Ball, we're going to see Noodle actually click a very interesting Roar. Now, this narrows down the set a little bit, but we see the Soundproof Kamo, which is evil into this team, right? Because Dirge really only runs sound moves, so the only way for it to hit this now is Shadow Ball, right? But we see Roar, which means if it's Skeledirge, it's running Slack Off. So Slack Off, Roar are two. We can basically just assume the other two are probably just going to be Stab. I don't know what else would run. Terra Blast Bug? No. So I don't know what else you could possibly run. My assumption would be Torch Song with Shadow Ball. And I'd start thinking about, oh, Ditto can come in on this, right? But we're going to see Leftovers, which just tells me it's defensive Komodo. Now, it could be Iron Defense. That is 100% a possibility. I would wager it's probably more like a Stealth Rock set, given that there's no rocks outside of this team. And we see actually Substitute come off, which is where we see part of the Soundproof come in. Soundproof plus Sub means you have to go through the Sub. There's no other way to get through, unless you have like somehow an ability nullifier on your team, which you don't have. You don't have any mold breakers, any terrible, any neutralizing gas. You have none of that. So, yeah, this sub means that you have to go through this sub. Now, you could just Whirlwind if you're Noodle, but he ends up switching, meaning he probably doesn't have it. Or maybe he... I don't know, because I don't know why you go Ting Lu in the first place if you don't have Whirlwind here. Why did you go Ting Lu? Especially because it's Terra Fairy. I don't know. I feel like Whirlwind is really easy. Maybe you're worried maybe you're just worried about sub body press. Maybe you were thinking originally, oh, it's gonna click D-Dance. I'll just eat the Drain Punch and Whirlwind. But now that it's like maybe now you're thinking, oh, it's sub body press. This is really hard for me. I'm actually going to swap out and not maybe did it reveal? It revealed Leftovers. I don't want to take a body press. I'll just leave because I can deal with this other ways. And we see Light Screen come up as Cable clicks Clanging Scales. Now this is a very strange set now to think about. We're sub kind of a defensive offensive set with Clanging Scales, which drops our defense, which I'm not really sure I like very much. Dropping defense when you're a defensive set. Now I've done it before, don't get me wrong, with Kamo, but I feel like those cases, this isn't one of them where you want to be doing that. I feel like body press to beat Ting Lu is nicer, but body press also doesn't work congruently with Clanging Scales, and at the end of the day, it is base 110 stab move, so I can understand it. But we do see the light screen from Noodle, which, because we don't see Leftovers on this, and we've seen knockoff into screen, we can just assume this is Light Clay. Don't even need to think about it. This is screens SERP. I would think it's probably Knock, Light, Reflect, and Leaf Storm last. Maybe it's no Leaf Storm, and that's why Noodle brought it into this team, because you can put up the screen, and then you don't care about any sweepers. And then even if Ditto comes in and copies you, what does it do if you're no Leaf Storm, right? It can't. So maybe we see potentially some anti-Ditto technology brought in from Noodle. We see boots onto rep as the Toxic comes off. And now we see this full set. No body press, solo clinging scales, stealth rock Toxic. You know what would have made this way more toxic is if you ran Dragon Tail over clinging scales. That would have been, because then you just drag random shit out over and over again, and then toxic shit that you want to hit. Because, like, if we're being honest, what are you scared of? Once you get the rocks up, you start Dragon Tailing, right? You can pull out the trap. Oh no, it's gonna Star Storm. I'll take like 50, and then I can toxic it, and I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the game. Oh no, Serp is out. What the fuck does Serp hit you with? Dragon Pulse is gonna do like 40 max. If it is running Dragon Pulse. Oh no, Ting Lu is out. I'm just gonna Dragon Tail it again, right? It can Earthquake. It's not gonna do a whole lot. Oh no, Charizard has been pulled out. Yeah, I can hit me with a Dragon Claw, but it also just took half from rocks because it was dragged out. I think that would have been a cooler set, but that is just me. We see spin from Terapagos. It doesn't break the sub, of course, and Cable hard call that and just puts the rocks right back up, which is really cool. Again, making a similar assumption to what I did in the prep here, which is that there's a Ditto on the other side of the... There's a Ditto on the other roster. You're not running setup sweep Terapagos. There's just simply no way. We see another spin come out. This one actually breaks the sub. And Cable, once again, is just going to put the rocks right back up. Because the sub is down, Noodle is okay with just Ice Beaming, and we see a critical freeze. This is terrible for Cable. This is no good, very bad. Instead of what you were kind of doing, which is trading Terapagos for this Komodo by just stalling it out, I'm going to make a call that he probably clicked he probably resubbed this turn, so he would have gotten 2 more turns out of this, which probably would have resulted in Terapagos dead with the clinging scales damage added on, unless he kept rocking over and over again. I don't know. It's hard to say. Instead of trading 1-for-1 this Komo and this Terapagos, and keep your rocks up, which is really nice because then you get Zard activated, now we just have a frozen Komo, and this trap gets to stay alive. Although it is quite chipped down, so you're not really worried about Trap offensively anymore, but that really wasn't the thing you were worried about in the first place. Now, we see Rapid Spin finally come off. If I'm Cable here, I know you're probably tilted from the freeze, but I do feel like it's better to go Sinistra, even if it's Ice Beam, because I know you can tell Noodle's first priority is getting the rocks down. I think what you maybe want to do instead is go Sinistra, eat the Rapid Spin, and then double to Tentacruel when you see the on the potential Ice Beam. And then you're not faster, so I think you go to like Crown or something, which is a great mid ground, covers both. Though it doesn't really. So maybe you go like Sinistra instead and just see if you can eat the last Rapid Spin and let it die to Toxic Poison. But I do think that... Oh, wait, no. It was dead. It was dead the next turn. So yeah, I do think it was better to go Sinistra first and then double the Tentacruel, just in order to keep the rocks up, because then you still kill this, or at least it's left on 9%, which if it's left on 9%, you really don't care. Instead, it gets a ton of damage on Tentacruel, which isn't great. Cable gets the rocks off his side of the field, which is nice for him, and then Terapagos finally goes down. So the spinner is gone, so if rocks go back up, they're here to stay, but the only rocker on this team is Komodo, and it's frozen. Right, so we're going to see Cable flip turn out on this Zard here. Now, this Zard is really scary, of course. You could go Ditto, but if it D-dances the same turn, it could speed tie, you could lose the game off that. It's hard to say. One play you could make is if you're calling Flare Blitz, you could bait a Flare Blitz into the Komodo in order to thaw it. That is a possibility. I think if you think he's going to Flare Blitz this turn, you're a little stupid, because what the fuck? There's a Tentacruel on the field. Maybe, well, I guess, Noodle isn't, he could predict something else coming in, but even now I do feel like Blitz is only if you're hard calling Crown. This just feels like a really easy D-dance. We do see Komodo come in, and we see Dragon Claw come out, and it gets sacked. Cable basically just turned this into a sack. Like, it's frozen, it's not going to do anything, just sack it off, let it go down. But we do see Dragon Claw on this Mega Zard, which means you can just go Ditto and get a kill, pretty much. Ting Lu will take a lot. But instead we see Sinistra come out, which I don't know how much I like. And now we see the true merit of this knockoff SERP, which is that you get +1 attack from Strength Sap. That knockoff can start to do some damage. But that's if Cable continues to Strength Sap and not just click Calm Mind over and over. Unfortunately, this is unaware with the screen. It's going to eat everything. So we're going to see Tenta come back out and get roared to Ditto. And at this point, if you're Cable, you're going, okay, this is great. I'm just going to click Torch Zone. Which is why it comes as a surprise to anyone that Cable swapped. And then we see Nightshade. I asked Cable in the post game what the last move on this Skeleturge was. And I believe he said it was Will-O-Wisp, if I'm remembering correctly. I could be wrong about this. Do not quote me on it. But I will tell you right now, the last move was not an attacking fire move at all. He was solo Nightshade for an attack. He built this set with the Terra Bug specifically to counter Ditto, which is genius. I love that. I love anti-Ditto technology, and I love doing it on a defensive mount like that. I just think that's really smart. So like, while I originally said like with this Terra Bug, it could be really scary that it could be Ditto coming in and taking the fire move and then fire moving you back. Now you don't care. You just don't care. You can just sit here forever in Nightshade. Because what on this team hits Terra Bug, which is another thing that Noodle probably figured in the prep, is like, what on Cable's team hits Bug? If we're calling that Moltres isn't the greatest pick here, which I said in the pregame, I said I don't think Moltres is very good here. I think it's likely that it's these top three. I said Mamo, Tenta, Sinistra, and Ditto. I think my 6 would have been no Ditto and bring these other 6 and just hope my opponent respects Ditto enough. Or bring Ditto, don't bring Tentacruel, and run Defog Coco. That was my idea for prep, right? I never considered Moltres, right? That was my thoughts. It looks like Noodle didn't really care either, because nothing on this team beats a Terra Bug Dirge besides Moltres. And Moltres, like, I didn't think it was ever coming. I don't think Cable ever thought it was coming, and I think Noodle made that call as well, that Moltres was never coming. Therefore, you can make this set that beats everything. But here's the thing, even if Moltres does end up coming, you have the easiest Ting-Lu switch of all time. You don't care. So, it's kind of a win-win at the end of the day. So, like, you can call the Moltres as not coming. And if it does, you still have an easy swap. So it's just really, this is really, really great prep from Noodle. I do like this a lot, but we see Cable swap out, which of course tells us, once again, no fire move. It's a wacky Skeleturge. It can't hit it. He goes to Tentacruel, takes a lot of damage. Actually doesn't flip turn, but goes raw Coco, which is interesting. I think he's just stalling out this light screen, but I do think you should have just flip turned anyways to get the damage. Maybe you're worried about Helmet, but I do think it's just always going to be Boots here. It might have even revealed it earlier when it came out on Rocks. I don't fully remember, but I'm not going to scroll back for it. But we're going to see Ting-Lu gets the Rocks right back up, and now they're almost here to stay because this Tentacruel is so low health. And once again, Noodle can just put the screen up and not care. We see Spit F boost, which is really, really tough. Getting that. Spit F drop from Shadow Ball turns into boost, and we do see that the SERP is glare maxing, of course, which almost all defensive SERPs are glare maxing. And in response, Cable is just going to start putting up Calm Minds. Noodle's going to deal his damage, but Cable's going to put this SERP out of its misery. But at this point, this is a paralyzed Sinistra, and this is a Hitmonlee behind his screen, and now it's clicking Swords Dance, and the Sinistra got full paralyzed. So, I feel if you are Cable, you need to make a very heads-up play here and go Ditto. Maybe not the first turn when it came in an SD. I think you wait for it to boost, but I think right after that, I think this is the turn you need to go to Ditto. Why should you go Ditto here? If Noodle has Hitmonlee here, he is probably worried about getting burned by Sinistra. So it's likely that he's doesn't want to make a call or doesn't want it to be here for as many turns, right? Now, there's two ways he could, because really, this Hitmonlee is very scary for this team. If Unburden procs, right, this Crown is probably dead to CC at +2. If it's got Poison Jab, Coco's dead. Tentacruel's in range. Sinisha's dead to knock. And, I mean, not now, but its Swords Dance is going to go faster than you can Strength Sap it. It can kind of just sit in front of this, especially with the screen. You don't really have a way to stop it. The best chance you have is more offense, really, is what I'm saying. Because it's going to beat Ditto as well if Unburden gets proc. Because, you know, Ditto doesn't have nearly as much help. So I do think the turn here is to go Ditto. I don't think, if you're Noodle, the only way you really kind of lose in this situation is you get burned, right? Now, there's two ways to get around that. One is you kill Sinisha now. You just knock off right now, get it over with, whatever. But if that happens, then Cable just goes Hitmonlee, forces you out. I mean, you got to kill, but it's like, this team is really worn down. I guess one D-Dance with Zard you can still win, but the Ditto's still alive. Like, there's still a chance that Cable can wrench this back, is what I'm saying, right? And, you know, Dirge is still going to take a big hit. It's still going to take a CC, even though it's resisted. It could hurt pretty bad. So, if you're a Noodle, I do feel you don't want to get burned, and the two ways to circumvent that are to sit here and click Swords Dance so many times that it doesn't matter, because you're behind a screen, and the Sinisha has a chance to get parried every turn. It's really not going to do anything to you. Just mash SD, right? On the other hand, you could knock off right now and kill this. Those are really your two options, I feel, if you're Noodle. You're almost never, in my opinion, just clicking raw CC on a ghost type that could burn you instead of trying to make some sort of progress, right? So I feel the best chance for Cable is to go Ditto, which in this situation beats Hitmonlee both times. Why does it do that? Well, this Hitmonlee is definitely unburdened, right? That's 100% the reason it's here. It's unburdened to beat the Ditto. If I'm Cable, I'm going, okay, this is probably like CC White Herb, or maybe some weird like sub Salak to like hit itself down. But given that it's SD, it's not like a bulky set, which is what I would expect from a subset. Like, I would expect, if it's sub, it'd probably be bulk up instead. I just feel that would be the case. It's just, in my opinion, what you would the intelligent play. It could be sub Citrus. It could just be raw Citrus, right? And it could just be sitting here waiting to take attacks behind a screen so that it doesn't die. But I'm probably leaning most towards CC White Herb, right? So I'm thinking, okay, it's never clicking CC on my ghost type. It's going to click SD or it's going to click knockoff. If I'm Cable, I'm going to Ditto here on this turn specifically. Not on the turn you got paralyzed, but on turn 31. Maybe I don't in the moment. I don't really know if I'm going to think of that in the moment. Never ask me, but I do think the best play in this spot is to go Ditto because you win in both scenarios. If it clicks SD again, you don't care because you're Scarf and you're faster, and now you get a +2 CC into the whole team, which isn't a whole lot. I mean, he's just going to go Skeledirge. But you force this Hitmonlee off, and the screen will be gone forever in like 2 more turns. So it's fine, right? And I'm assuming you have some weird sweeper set on Crown that you can win with still, despite the fact that Terrabug Dirge kind of walls the whole gang. But, you know, I digress. And if it clicks knockoff, sure, it knocks off your Scarf, but you copied its Unburden. And you just got your item knocked off. Now you're faster. Just start hitting shit, right? So, I do think that is the play, but instead, we see Cable just desperately try to strength sap this down, but at this point, it's got, like, it's just gonna click, it's just gonna keep clicking Swords Dance. So, Cable goes for a Matcha Gotcha in an attempt to burn this, but also get some health back, get some damage off. It's +1, so it actually does quite a bit, it does about 32. And then we see the devastating Redcord Hitmonlee. This is awful. This is a really, not awful, like, as in this is a bad set. This is an amazing set. This is awful for Cable. You just lost on the spot. Now there's no way to beat this. You can never, Ditto's outsped. Everything else dies. Plain and simple. Unless you're Endure, Custap, and even then, the screen is still up for another turn. You're losing 2 mons before any of that happens, because your only possible Endure Custap mon at this point is, I mean, I guess Coco could have it, but it's between Coco and Crown, and both are special. You still need to stall the screen first. So, the game is over, pretty much. And it's all thanks to this red card. Now, this red card is really good. I said I would, if I'm Cable, I'm going, this is probably like CC Whiter, which is, relatively common Hitmonlee set. Not uncommon by any means. Um, but red card is so good because it means you can set up, he got the exact play he wanted. Put a screen up, click SD a million times in front of Sinistra. As soon as it hits you, it gets knocked away, right? And now you have a plus however many you get, Hitmonlee, in front of the whole team, and Cable had no idea that he was even going to proc on Burden. Because if the main set is CC White Herb, you're thinking, okay, he'll never proc on Burden. I'll just let Sinistra go down because he can't CC in front of my Sinistra. I'll get in my Ditto, I'll force it out, and then I'll deal with it later. But instead, when there's no more screens because Surf died. Instead, we got this completely unexpected Hitmonlee with Unburden, and I mean the game is over from there. So I don't really know what you could have done. There is stuff you could have done, but the main, this was masterful prep from Noodle, if we're being honest. Like, this whole setup superior into the Hitmonlee was genius, but also the Terra Bug Dirge making the Call of No Moltres is really, just great thinking. Yeah, I mean, it's just great. Like, I love these two sets right here. This Dirge and this Hitmonlee are just really good. I know the glaze is crazy right now, but when I see good prep like that, I do have to talk about it. So now we see Waffles versus Birds here. God, what time am I at? I'm already at 36 minutes. Jesus Christ. All right, well, I'm not gonna short you guys. Let's look at the prep for this game now. Waffles. Well, this is Birds' team. Birds' new, quote-unquote, new team, taking over for Kenny. Birds got some trades. Pretty much only kept, I think, just Cleavor, T-Tar, and Dracovish, and the rest got dropped. I don't know if Nihilego was on the original draft. And then we see Waffles on the right over here. He's got this, as we know, this really, really cool Chili Reception backs team. But you can also run something with... Trick Room Slowking as well, was what I was thinking. Now, one thing to note, before this game, Waffles did not have Inteleon, he had Blastoise instead, and Fortress was something else that I can't remember. I don't remember what it was. But, looking into this game, Birds has so much hazards that your spinner is necessary. So Blastoise is on the roster no matter what. It's on the roster anyways because Dracovish is there. Dracovish is there, that means Rillaboom is also here. So, right away for Waffles, we've identified Rillaboom and let's just say the Inteleon is a Blastoise. Rillaboom and Blastoise are coming, right? Don't even need to think about it. They're both coming. Next question. There's an Enamorus, Superpower Moonblast. Okay, Slowking is coming. Great. Don't need to think about it. We got 3 Mons already. What else? You probably want to bring a Terra Captain, right? I do think... Is there a... The only ground type is Flygon. Okay, well, how does Flygon do it to this team? Well, it doesn't really get Earthquake. It still gets high... I believe it still gets 5 horsepower, if I'm remembering correct. So it could function into this team. But if you're Birds, you're probably bringing... Your first 4 for sure. You're probably bringing Jirachi. You might want Cleavor. I don't really know if you want Flygon as much, right? So I do think you probably want a Choice Lock Thunder with Volt Switch. But even outside of that, Terra Blast Fly is still pretty solid into this team. Actually, no, it's not. There's a whole ass T-Tar. What am I saying? Sorry. And Sandy Shocks is also there. I totally missed that was a ground type. Sorry, I'm still tired from classes. Yeah, I don't know then. I don't know how great of a Thundo set it could be, but actually, no, I thought of something else. You hardwall Sandy Shocks, which means you can get it in for free. So maybe you can run like some sort of setup set and be creative with it, even though you lose to T-Tar always. You could get around it with a creative enough Terra, I feel. Like, let's see. Because you're flying in Volt Absorb, you could get in for free on the Sandy Shocks, click Agility as it switches, probably to something like T-Tar, and then go, like, maybe Terra Grass, and click Plot, and then just Terra Blast Grass is an option. You could go physical Terra Blast and to hit T-Tar, so you don't have to worry about its monstrous Spadef, given that it gets a boost from Sandstorm. And then the Terra Blast Grass, or not Terra Blast, but the Terra Grass also helps you a little bit with eating hits from Dracovish. I actually don't know if a Terra Grass Thundo would take a hit from a Banded Dracovish in the sand, but That's just me. But also, we're bringing back Excalibur. Let's be so for real. Ice Shard back Excalibur is just kind of a gimme here. I mean, you get a hit on Dracovish, you get a hit on Enamorus, you get a hit on Flygon, you get a hit on a lot of Mons. And if you run something like D-Dance, you can get hit on even more Mons. Now, the only thing to worry about is Dracovish, right? Sandrush, +2 speed. You need 2 D-Dances to beat the team, right? So maybe what you do is run loaded dice, D-Dance, Scale Shot. You get that off in front of a couple of different Mons. Maybe if you work Jirachi down enough, you can get that off in front of it. But that's an idea. That's really hard to get working though. So I do feel like maybe like a bulkier set, maybe something like Habanberry would be useful in order to beat that. But that's outside the point. So we have 4 Mons here, right? How good is Mega Maw here? Mega Maw is fantastic here. Comes right in on T-Tar, forces Enamorus to go for either Earth Power or Mystical, beats Jirachi. Well, maybe not beats it, but you get the point. Comes in on Cleavor. We're bringing Mega Maw pretty much always in this situation, I feel like. So we have 5 Mons, and I do think Thundo is probably the next one you take. I think there's a number of sets you could run. Given that you have Terra, it's really hard to like figure out entirely what you run. But yeah, I do think that's what you run. Now, if you birds, what do you run here? Okay, well, you're running Dracovish because this team is actually pretty weak to Dracovish. Even if we think about the Inteleon as a Blastoise, a Choice Band Sandrush Dracovish is still doing a number of this team. So put Dracovish on the roster. And the other thing to note is that Blastoise is going to have to come in quite often because you have so many hazards on this team. So if I'm Birds, my game plan is force hazards so Blastoise can come in, take some chip, and then work it down with Dracovish. And then even if Rillaboom is a defensive set, it's still not taking that much. And if you keep your hazards up and keep your sand up, that's a lot of chip, right? And the terrain you could heal off of too. So you could take a glide or two, right? So Dracovish and T-Tar are coming. Don't even need to think about it, right? If we're doing hazards, we want one of Sandy Shock's or Cleavor, or even both, right? We'll see in the game that Birds ends up bringing Sandy Shocks. I think both are fine. Actually, no, both are not fine. Definitely do not bring Cleavor here, because Annihilate just comes in for free and gets a stack of Rage Fist, which you just never ever want happening, even if you have good Ghost Resist. So, yeah, I don't think you ever bring Cleavor here. I think you bring, but you want Hazard still. So I do think you bring Sandy Shocks. This gives you ground coverage into Slowking as well. Gives you Volt Switch into the team. Yes, you're hardwalled by Thundo. I do think a lot of the time you're just going to be wanting to put up hazards, and then maybe I think your set is like Stealth Rock Spikes. I mean, normally Stealth Rock Spikes dual stab, but that's really hard set to run with the Thundo in play, so maybe you sacrifice one of those for like Tri Attack, which is your best coverage. If you get, I don't believe you get rock moves, but if you do, that'd be worth running. Yeah. Now, the big subject here, well, actually, let me get to Enamorus in a second. Let's think about what else, right? Nihilego is here, but you probably want your Terra on Dracovish. Nor with a Slowking do I think you're ever getting through this team specially. So I do think Nihilego you can just write off a lot of the time here. If you're Waffles, obviously you still have to respect it, but I do think you can just write it off a lot of the time, and I think Birds did too, which is totally fair. What about Jirachi? Jirachi comes in pretty for free on Slowking. It's a pretty easy pivot to Slowking, right? You could run like Shuka and beat backs. You're pretty nice switch into Maw. You resist this dual stab as a steel type. In fact, this is really your only switch to Maw. Yeah, you're bringing this for sure as a switch to Maw. Almost always, right? So Jirachi is 100% coming. So right now we've got 4 Mons, right? What else? What else do you bring? Cleavor? No. Nihilego? No. What about Flygon? What do you even do as Flygon besides die to Ice Shard? I guess you get Earthquakes into the team, but there's a Rillaboom, right? I mean, that's the reason this team was so ground weak, is because you can cover it with a Rillaboom, so you get high horsepowers, which just isn't the same. I mean, it's still 95, but it's hard. So, I don't know, because you can't run D-Dance sets. Because if you ever kill him on, Bax comes in and kills you back. Unless you want to run like Yachi Berry D-Dance. But even if you do all that, Rillaboom can still glide you. There's too much priority to get away with the set when you don't resist anything. So I don't think that's quite an option you can go for. Earth Power, I don't like at all, because as soon as you reveal your special, that Slowking comes in. I guess you could do, like, Roost U-turn Defog, but if you run U-turn ever, that's just that's just an Annihilate switch. Yeah, this is really hard for Flygon, actually. Um, yeah. We're gonna see, and I don't want to make it look like I'm just making calls based on what I saw in game, but we're gonna see Birds eventually bring Typhlosion Hisui, and I do think that is correct. I do think that is right here. I do think Willow into this team is really strong. I think like a or just what's that Infernal Parade move? I don't even know what that move does actually. Can I? But you know what? Yeah, let's open my calc. I was calcing Gastrodon versus Noivern, obviously, but whatever. Infernal Parade. I don't actually need to pull up Typhlosion for this, but I'm going to anyways. Once again, I'm not opening my showdown because I will leak my team, and I don't want to do that. So, let's think Infernal Parade. It's a 60 base power ghost move, and I think it's 50% chance to burn, if I'm remembering right. I don't know. But you could run that move. That's not bad. Ghost Fire in general is not bad into this team. I don't hate it. But yeah, I think Typhlosion's a cool bring. Either Grassy Glide resist here and Ice Shard resist. It's just, I think that's really solid overall. I think you could even Scarf it and just run Scarf Shadow Ball, which hits pretty much everything. Now, the big point of contention here is Enamorus. So we've already narrowed down. We don't want to bring Nihilego. We don't want to bring Cleavor. We really don't want to bring Flygon. They kind of all get dumpstered. Nihilego, not as much. So maybe that's the other mon you bring here. But even then, Ice Shard plus Glide is probably going to kill most Nihilegos. And you really want the Terran Dracovish because this team is just so Dracovish weak, even with the Blastoise over Inteleon. So what about Enamorus? Well, as an avid Enamorus user, I in fact just took it for... what is it, the 4th time now that I'm using Enamorus? I just drafted it for the 4th time in Smogon's Fall Seasonal. As an avid Enamorus user, holy fuck, there's a Slowking. I can't use Enamorus. Jeez, this is awful. I don't want to see that. That is the last one I want to see when I'm using an Enamorus. The reason for this is Enamorus really likes 2 sets. Scarf Moonblast or Superpower Contrary, right? I don't really like running CM Enamorus, because if you're running CM Enamorus, you don't get... You kind of almost always have to run leftovers. That means you're weak to rocks. It's not the bulkiest thing in the world, and I feel you get just a lot of power on this just from running a choice Moonblast a lot of the time. Into this team, it's if you strip the Slowking, it's quite strong actually, right? Because before this, Waffles did not have Fortress. So what the hell do you do? Right? Because you can't Superpower, there's a Slowking. You can't Moonblast, there's a Slowking. We're going to see Birds actually ends up bringing Calm Mind. Now, this isn't the worst thing, because Enamorus does get Earth Power, so could muscle through it eventually. But if Webbles is running Sludge Bomb, it shouldn't matter at all, right? So maybe if there's a way, if you can stack enough hazards, you could get it through. But this is really a hard matchup for Enamorus, right? That all being said, I actually did not look at Waffles' matchup into Birds. Actually, I did. I said Slowking has to come, Blastoise has to come. I said Rillaboom, Thundo, Bax, Mawile was my calls. Oh, that was the other mon. It was a Mudsdale. Right. No, yeah, Mudsdale makes sense here. Actually, we're going to see no Thundo, we're going to see Mudsdale instead. I mean, yeah, I don't fully disagree with that. I do think this was a pretty hard matchup for Thundo. You had to make some really interesting calls if you wanted it to work. Yeah, I'm having trouble disagreeing with that, Brain. I do think Mudsdale is quite nice, too, for Jirachi. You can just come in, eat an Iron Head, get stamina, and even if it flinches you a million times in a row, you'll get to +6 defense anyway, so who cares, right? You eat Volt Switches from Sandy Shocks. Earthquake is quite strong into the opponent. If you're looking at this lineup, I think it was even just outside of that, Ground seems pretty strong into this team. Yeah, outside of Enamorus, Ground seems pretty strong into this team. I mean, there's a Flygon, but we wrote off Flygon ages ago, so... I mean, let's just get right into it. We're going to see the very obvious Terra Water, Dracovish, and Waffles did not bring a Terramon, right? Waffles is going to call the lead Sandy Shocks with Rillaboom, and we're going to see Jirachi come in on the Rillaboom. We're going to see Knockoff do half, because Rillaboom is strong as balls, and we're going to see Leftovers as well. Leftovers plus Grassy Terrain, just very standard set. I mean, you get 12% every turn. That's really nice. I mean, we're going to see Helmet basically do no damage because of it. But we're also, again, we're going to see Helmet Jirachi, which tells me that we're using Jirachi as a switch to Rillaboom, and we're using it as a switch to, which am I doing? Mawile. Oh, Mawile didn't come either, actually. I said, what did I say? I said Blastoise, Mawile, Slowking, Blastoise, Mawile, Rillaboom, Thundo, Bax. Yeah, I said these 6, right? And this is a Blastoise, of course. So Thundo got swapped for Mudsdale, and then what was the other Mon? No, Slowking's there. Blastoise is there, Rillaboom's there, Bax is there. Oh, Ape actually got brought here. Interesting. So, I think if you're Waffles, I actually don't really like Ape in this matchup. I think the fighting moves for T-Tar is nice, but I don't know if you're quite... I guess you do get free stacks of Rage Fist on the T-Tar, so it's not the worst thing in the world. I do think you probably want to run U-Turn, though, because there's a lot of bad matchups for Ape here. Like, you just lose to a lot. I mean, yeah, you beat a lot, but the ones you beat, Birds doesn't really want to bring. Like, yeah, Cleavor and Flygon you own, but, like, I feel like if you're Birds, you see that, and you see that you shouldn't be bringing those mons, right? But anyways, despite it being Helmet, it gets some recovery, and we're going to see U-Turn Jirachi. Very standard. We're going to see Stamina come off. If I'm Birds, I'm probably just going right to Dracovish here and ripping a Terra Water. Vicious Rend, because you pretty much just get a kill, or if not, you get a shit ton of damage on something. Though with the terrain, I can understand why you would be hesitant to do that. We're going to see Sub-Enamorous as the rocks go up. I would be hesitant to do this because Mudsdale very often runs Roar, so that is something to note. But Birds goes for it anyways, and we see Waffles switch. This tells me it's no Roar. So if it's probably rocks and 3 coverage moves. But we also know it's no heavy slam, actually, and no rock slide, because none of that was clicked. But you know, that's besides the point. We're gonna see Slowking Galar come out, and we're gonna see Calm Mind from Enamorous. Now, what should just happen here is Enamorous gets 2 Earth Powers, Slowking takes a shit ton of damage, but it gets the Sludge Bomb twice, and then Bax comes off and forces it out with Ice Shard. Why did he click Scald? So this is the point of the battle where me, who had just woken up, I had just woken up. I had just moved into my apartment in DC that I'm staying at for college. It was like really, I think one of my first nights staying there, and I woke up in the morning a little disgruntled because I didn't sleep all that great. I check my phone. I see, oh, there's a draft replay. Oh, it's Waffles versus Birds. What happened? Oh, it was my first night. I can see the date right here, Friday. Yeah, I moved in on Friday. So, you know, I moved in on Thursday, and then I woke up on Friday. I opened this, and I saw this go down, and I went, oh my god, he didn't bring Sludge Bomb. He has a whole Mon to wall Enamorous, and he didn't bring the move to beat Enamorous. And of course, Birds doesn't care if it does or doesn't have Sludge Bomb, right? Birds is going to get a ton of damage either way because it's not AV. We saw Chili. We can assume a lot of the time the Slowking is not going to be AV because of the Baxcalibur. But you have a sub-up, right? So you don't care if it's Sludge Bomb or not, right? In fact, you definitely think it's Sludge Bomb. And you're going, all right, whatever. I'll get some damage back. Maybe if I see him again, it'll be my strongest hit. I'll get a ton of damage. I'll get this thing off the map. If my Enamorous lives, I'll save it for later. If not, I peeled the Slowking off the field, which is great because Slowking is a big soak of damage, and I got the only Regenerator Mon out of here, which is awesome. But instead, now we have a fucking issue because there was no Sludge Bomb, and now this thing is behind a sub and plus 1 trillion. Yeah, so we're going to see Scarf Ice Punch Ape. It's going to break the sub. In return, Birds is going to kill it back. Yeah, I mean, I did say if you're bringing this, you should run a U-turn set. And I mean, that's what Waffles ended up doing. I'm going to assume because it's Scarf, it probably had Final Gambit as well, which makes total sense. Actually, I don't know how much I like that, given that there is Sandstream and potentially a lot of hazards from this side of the field. I don't know if that's the greatest thing, but I digress. Well, now you should just be able to go back and force it out. What? Wait, what? Alright, let's run a quick mathematical calculation here. Excalibur, Uber's Dragon Dance versus Enamorus. OU Calm Mind. So we're the Calm Mind set, right? Okay, well, Ice Spear does 200%. That's quite good. Let's see Ice Shard damage. 72 to 85. How much was this at when that turn ended? Oh no, it healed out of range. So, because we spent so many turns scalding, we spent 2 extra turns scalding for no reason when we should have just chillied. If we're no Sludge Bomb, why are we not just clicking chili? Because if Birds is going to switch out of fear, then they're going to switch out of fear, right? If they're not, then you have no way to break the sub, so you need to chili out to something that can stat. But now, this thing is healed out of range of Ice Shard, unless you're Never Melt Ice, but I'm gonna assume it was loaded ice because I didn't see it come out, and I know Wevels is smart enough to realize that. Now we have a really big issue. Because Bird's just gonna resub, because at this point Birds knows that it's no Scald. And we're gonna see fucking Future Sight come out. So we're Scald, Future Sight, Chili, no Sludge Bomb. No way to hit this. This is awful. This is really bad. But we're going to see a Chili into Rillaboom as Future Sight lands, which breaks the sub. I don't agree with this either. Why didn't you just go back and Ice Shard? Whatever. He glides to put it finally in full range of Ice Shard, because it was a roll before, but I feel that as a roll you have to take in this scenario. But finally we put this demon down. Okay, fine. It's dead, whatever. Now Tyranitar's on the field. It's not over, okay? Blastoise is full health. You can take hits from Dracovish. Slowking is still alive. You can soak a lot of damage from Jirachi, maybe from Typhlosion. So it's not over. Maybe you have a fighting move for this. No, you don't. Okay, so we're going to Blastoise. I don't agree with that. You should have gone Mudsdale. You need the health on this really badly to take hits from what's his face. But we're going to see Dragon Tail come out, actually, which I don't know how much I like either. I feel like Flip Turn would have just been the better play. And then on Jirachi, just Flip Turn into, like, Mudsdale. I do think just forcing the Mudsdale would have just been really nice in general, because even if it U-turns out, it's faster, so it can't come in safely. But we see now this come out on the Blastoise. Now, Birds chooses Outrage and gets Dragon Tailed out. I do think this is a really smart play, because you don't get locked into Outrage. Actually, you don't really care. Nothing on this team switches into Outrage. Half the mons resist Vicious Rend. So yeah, Outrage is just better to click now, because why wouldn't you? You don't really care if you get Dragon Tailed out. You're just going to Terra Water, so it's not super effective anymore. Yeah, I mean, you might as well, right? Like, if you think it's going to click Dragon Tail, what's the worst this Blastoise can do to you? Nothing. So now you get forced out. Typhlosion comes in, and at this point, you can try to preserve this as a sack, but you have no switch-ins for this Typhlosion. Unless we're going to try and make Mudsdale a switch-in. Okay, well, it only took 37, so that's not bad. Plus your leftovers. Okay, so this is a switch-in. So we can save the sack. And we get the burn, which is really, really tough, because otherwise this would have just killed. And Sand goes away. So that's really annoying, but... Okay, I forgot about this Endeavor. This Endeavor made me really mad when I watched this game, because I don't know why you would go for that. I feel like Shadow Ball is just always better. I feel like Waffles is very often just letting this die and is not switching. And if you're scared of Thermal Exchange, just click Flamethrower instead. If he's never switching, you might as well just take the kill and let this go down to the next mon. Like, at this point, if you're Birds, you have such an insane lead that you can just trade until you win. There's no need to throw away mons for no reason, because at this point, now you have no sack lead, because you just let this die for almost no reason at all. So I don't fully agree with this play. Really not at all, but now you get to go Dracovish, and now you can start ripping Outrages into the whole team, or Vicious Rend. Or you could just go T-Tar and do none of that, and kill this with Crunch instead. Okay, so we clicked Pursuit for some reason, even though it's plus 1 million. I don't agree with this either. Now you don't have a sack lead at all anymore. And this is 1 health. And yeah, I just don't like that. Why did you do that? And now you lost your Sand too. You can't even renew it if it runs out. Which, yeah, okay. Sure, dude. Once again, I think the better plan here was when this dies. I mean, this is a misplay, but it's not game losing, right? You want to show off the tech, whatever. The way better play here, you do not need Sand to win this game, right? The only mon faster than Dracovish right now is Bax. Just go Dracovish and rip Efficious Rend, right? Bax can come out after. Actually, no, actually you can't do that. What you do is you go Dracovish and click Outrage. You don't click Vicious Rend. You can't click Vicious Rend, because if you click Vicious Rend without the Sand, Bax comes in, clicks D-Dance, and wins on the spot. So that's not an option. Well, it doesn't win on the spot, but you do have to. It does get a little scary, because it can D-Dance and kill T-Tar. If it has fighting moves, which it likely does, and then even if you get your Sand back up, you know. Yeah, you could lose your Vish. So I don't do that. Just go to Vish and click Bandit Outrage. I don't know why we're going to T-Tar and hitting the base 40 power move. He is sacking this, and if not, you can kill something else. Just go to the fish, click Outrage, take your kill. Probably take more than one kill. Yeah, you take more than one kill because everything dies at this point to Outrage. That should have just been the play, but instead we get Sand up for no reason, and now we go to the Outrage mod. Okay, so this is fine now because we're faster than Bax. Yeah, and this does end up being max speed Jirachi, which is why I criticized those plays so heavily, but whatever. We have Sand with Dracovish now. Now we can rip Outrage, and now we just 6-0, because everything dies to Outrage at this point, including the Slowking. I know that was the big question because it had so much health, but yeah, it dies. Now this is where Birds makes another game-losing play here, in my opinion, which is staying in here. You have no reason to stay in here at all. Worst case scenario, it predicts you to swap out and clicks D-Dance, right? 1,000,000,000,000% of the time, you go Jirachi here, and then you actually, was it Smooth Rock? Oh, it wasn't Smooth Rock. Oh. Yeah, that changes things. Yeah, that changes things, actually. Shit, is there a way you can win this? Because my original thought was that it's Smooth Rock T-Tar, because I didn't see the item, and I just assumed. A lot of the time you want to end up... A lot of the time, teams with Dracoviches end up wanting to run Smooth Rocks, so they can just get the clean sweep, or they don't even have to worry about the weather staying up. But this is a matchup that has a Chili Reception Slowking, so I can totally understand not wanting to run it. That's not what I'm here to talk about, and I'm sorry for calling it a game-losing play. That's not true. The issue at hand here is I thought originally what you should be doing is going to Jirachi, U-turn, go right back to Fish. You'll have it in Sand, click Outrage, and win. There's only 2 turns. You don't have enough time to do that. You just have to click Outrage and hope you don't hit yourself. Like, actually, that is your play. Which sucks. It sucks a lot, actually. But, yeah, that ends up not working, and we see Glaive Rush activated. Now, Waffles makes a bit of a misplay here, and this Jirachi, despite being Helmet, and, you know, I assumed defensive for Rillaboom, defensive for Mawile, I still took... How much damage is that? 50? How much? Let's scroll back up and see that knockoff damage one more time. 48. Whoa. Hold on. Let's do some math here. Rillaboom. Jirachi. Okay, well, it's clearly not banded, right? So oh, that's not the right space. So let's just say, how does this actually look on the screen? Oh, it looks fine. You can see just enough. All right, so non-boosting item Adamant does 54 to max HP Jirachi. 54. Okay, well, let's go back to this replay. How much did it do again? 48. Okay, well, that means it's got some defense, right? So let's see here. Okay, well, yeah, that seems correct, right? Actually, wait, if it did 50... Oh, it did 48. I'm sorry. Well, let's say it's bold. I could run some defense. But the one thing you need to know here is, for that to do that much, it's not 252. Like, it could be, but then you max rolled, right? Which I just don't count for max rolls like that. So, and also, what if it's no HP and it's just max PhysDef? Then it could be doing 48 anyways. What I'm saying is, we have missing EVs here. We have missing EVs, so where are they? Okay, well, let's go back to this replay. The Jirachi clicked U-turn. When did it click U-turn? It clicked U-turn on King Richard, the Mudsdale. Okay, well, let's pull up a Mudsdale. Defensive, U-turn does 8 to 9 on max PhysDef. Okay, well, I don't think it was max PhysDef then. Okay, 10% on 52 bold. Okay, or it rounded up. It could have definitely rounded up as well, but either way, like, oh, I clicked bold. I'm stupid. No, it's the other one. It wouldn't be bold. Impish, that's what I'm looking for. U-turn does 10% naturally. Okay, well, we've only accounted for about half of its EVs and HP and potentially a little bit in defense. Or it's 252 defense, bold, with no HP investment, and it's just meant to eat them all while. And the Rillaboom issue. Where the fuck are the rest of the EVs? Okay? If it's helmet, it's not supposed to switch into special moves, right? In fact, why would you run special defensive Jirachi here? What could you possibly need to switch into? You're not going to switch into Thundo. That's what T-Tar's for. You're not going to switch into Blast. Well, you don't really care to switch into Blastoise. It's not doing enough damage. And what does Slowking even hit you with? I guess it gets Flamethrower, but even then, it's probably not clicking that off rip. It's probably clicking Chili most of the time just to get rid of the sand. So it's not going to be especially defensive. And yeah, there's me getting pinged by Discord. Let me close that until the video's over so that doesn't happen again. My bad. So where are the rest of the EVs? Where are they? Well, there's only one option then. If it's not attack, it's not HP, it's not SpDef, that means it has to be speed. He's speedy with defense. This psychopath, he's speedy with defense. That means he's faster than the backs right now. That's the crazy part about this battle. This whole time, this Jirachi was packing random speed EVs. Now, he's doing that because it's at the end of the day, it's Serene Grace Ironhead. He's looking for flinches, right? He's looking for flinches. So Waffles in this moment makes a game-losing play. He decides he has Ice Shard, right? And, you know, I mean, let's just count this for the sake of the argument. Baxcalibur, we know it's not a boosting item. We already did the math on that. Let's pull up Sandy Shocks. Ice Shard. Oh, wow, that actually does fucking nothing. Never mind. It was over anyways. Holy shit, that does 0. Okay. Well, Bubbles makes a game-losing play anyways. And doesn't switch this turn. He just goes, oh, I'm faster, I'll just kill this. He's not faster. Well, actually, it wasn't. No, because he probably has D-Dance, so never mind on that, actually. Because I did talk to him, and I believe he's D-Dance Spear. Or even just D-Dance Glaive Rush. If he's +1, Glaive Rush kills, right? Yeah. Unless his booster speed shocks in the back, which is entirely possible. If his booster speed shocks, I think Birds just wins anyways. Yeah, most of the time. But you have to play for not that. So the game-losing play is that Waffle stays in here. He stays in here, and because he's Glaive Rushed, he dies to Ironhead. If he's not Glaive Rushed, he doesn't die to Ironhead. Reminding, there's no attack investment on this Jirachi. He can just go to Blastoise, let it die, or even Dragon Tail to get a more favorable matchup, right? In case it lives somehow. But you just let it die. Bax comes in, lives in Ironhead, clicks D-Dance, kills Jirachi. It's faster than shots if it's not booster speed, and Waffles can win still. But instead, Waffles just stays in and dies to Ironhead. Now, to be clear, he still had to deal with a 60% chance of a flinch, right? So it wasn't that, and the fact that it could still be booster speed shocks, right? So it's not like the game was completely, like, finished if he just went to Blastoise and he just won on the spot. But you do have to play for those outs. And to be fair, Waffles, you know, I talked to him after. He's like, yeah, I was not playing my best that game. And that happens, right? I'm not here to like harp on people or be mean. I just analyze these battles for the fun of it. I just like to go through and figure out what are the best plays you can make. If you played not great, that's fine. I apologize for ripping your battle apart and ripping your play apart. But yes, there are a number of not winning plays in this battle on both ends of this on both sides of the field. And it's something to improve on. I will say I really like Birds' prep. I think he brought the correct, like the perfect six. I think the speed on Jirachi is really funny because I don't really think you need it, but it will completely take someone who's not paying as much attention as someone like me who calcs literally fucking every attack. Um, it will take them by surprise for sure, right? Even then, that would still probably take me by surprise because who the fuck would calc the Jirachi U-turn to look for an attack investment, right? Um, and I'd probably assume max HP over max defense. I don't even know if I would find those missing EVs before, but I digress. Very, very, very good prep from Birds. Played great. Waffles, little bit of a misspring on the no sludge bomb. I do think the game is a lot different if you do that. If you make some calls sooner instead of just scalding the sub over and over, I do think there's some room for improvement, but that's besides the point. Good job to Birds. Let's go to the final battle. We have Raven King versus Excelsior. Oh boy, this battle is a lot. I'm just gonna let this first turn play out. Just yeah. Okay, so why did we stay in? Why did you do that? Why did you? So to be clear, Raven King has led Landorus every battle, and every time I believe it's been a different set. Now, it's Terra Fly, so it could absolutely be Terra Fly, Terra Blast, right? That would make sense, right? Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. Well, it could just as easily be Scarf, I feel. Um, because I mean, I feel like it would make perfect sense because the lead is always going to be Megazord Y from Excelsior to just lead the Scarf Rock Slide and kill it. I feel if you're Excelsior, you're thinking, okay, well, this is a couple sets, right? Could be Helmet with rocks, could be AV Rock Slide, could be Scarf, could U-turn. It could do a trillion different things. You know what beats all of those options is switching to Great Tusk. If he's Scarf Rock Slide, you eat it, you get your own rocks up. Awesome! If he's U-turn, okay, he U-turns, he goes what? Venusaur, okay, great. You just go Metagross and the day is won. Great. Um if what else? If he clicks rocks, you go to Tusk, you click spin. There's no ghost type. The day is won. Great. Why did we stay in? I'm so sorry. It's just like even if you're saying, oh, he's gonna click rocks, I'll just click a weather ball. There's a lot of times where this could just be AV and beat this. Like, I feel like Raven King is not, like, stupid. Like, he knows that a lot of the time that Megazord Y is going to be led. I feel like it's right to assume that he has some sort of plan, right? Whether it's AV or Scarf. And besides, even if you don't, even if you're like, even if you are hard calling, this is clicking Stealth Rocks this turn, it's still so much better to get Tusk in. You get Proto Attack, you get a free Rapid Spin. Now you have a +1 Proto Attack Tusk on the field. What's stopping it? Like, it's just gonna hit everything for tons of damage. It's probably got Spinner for Lando. It's probably got Headlong for just about everything else. This is it's just gonna rip through this team, right? And you would get it in for free if this is clicking rocks. It's just a huge missed opportunity and a pretty big misplay, in my opinion, to just sit here and click rock slide. I didn't go over prep for this battle, did I? All right. Well, I'm looking at my timer and I'm seeing an hour and 15 minutes on my screen, so I'm not gonna get into prep for this game. I'm just gonna go for the battle. I feel at this point. So we see Great Tusk. We're gonna see. Ice Spinner this time, and it's gonna obliterate that Venusaur. This is wonderful for Ray. Whoa! I just said like 8 different things. Sorry, I read King on both sides of the screen and got completely discombobulated. So this is great for Excelsior because really one of the only things that stops this Tusk in full capacity is a Mega Venusaur with Thick Fat to resist Ice Spinner. But because Raven King never got his Mega off, side note, maybe he never intended to. Maybe he just went Chlorophyll Venusaur fully offensive. I don't know. That would have been a really cool set here. We'll never get to see it though because it got obliterated in one Ice Spinner. I mean, yeah, it just got the Tusk got in before you could get your Mega off. That's tough. I don't know what you do about that. I'm gonna assume now Milotic's coming in order to scald this down, or Blaziken to get a speed boost and then rip Flare Blitz into this. But one thing to note is Excelsior could have had his positioning by just going to Tusk straight up. Because he could have just ate the Rock Slide and then just spinnered and killed the Venusaur, which Raven King was going to. And then you have all this positioning. You've taken probably 6% on Great Tusk, and you have a full health Zard Y in the back, so you can refresh your Sun, right? We see Milotic come in. We're gonna see Terra Fairy Supercell Slam, Terra Fairy to eat Ice Beams and Scalds. Yeah, right. This is clear. I don't like the second Supercell. I feel like there is a good chance that Raven King could just double the Lando and you take half. I feel like you should have gone for EQ or Headlong, but I digress. What are you going to do? We see Blaziken. Yep. Okay, now this is the point where I start to... I've already disagreed with some plays here, but... why'd you say it? Now, you might be thinking, well, I didn't want to, if I'm Excelsior, I don't want to get swept by Blaziken, right? You kind of need this Great Tusk. Now, let me explain. See, here's the thing. I want you to look at Excelsior's team, right? And if you remove the Great Tusk, I want you to ask me. Let's take a look at a Pokemon here. Let's take a look at this humble, sleepy guy named Snorlax, right? Now, let me zoom in on these stats here, right? Okay. So, if it is Snorlax with Leftovers Curse, it's boosting its defense. So, let's just assume +1, right? Uh-oh, that's pretty fat. That's pretty fat already, right? Look at that Spadef. Oh my god, that Spadef is... Oh my god. It's eating special hits for breakfast, right? So, if you don't have setup on the special side, you're never breaking it on the special side, right? You lost your Proto. Let's scroll back over to this replay. What? Neither of those mons that are special get set up. Okay, well, that's fine. Great Tusk does a lot of damage on the physical side, right? Okay, well, let's think about this. Let's say it's this exact set, this dual spread thing, right? Let's pull the Great Tusk. Tuskathy, great guy, love him. Oh my god, look at that Headlong. 44 to 52? Even on max defense? That's a 2-co. Pretty much. Let's say Curse is in between, and then it rests. You still get to rip a bunch of Headlong into it. And this is where we see another big problem, is that with no Proto active, imagine you have Proto attack here. Look at that damage, right? Even after +1, it's still a chance for a 2-co. Right? Like, this is huge. This is why killing the Zard was so good for Raven King. Because if this Tuskathy, right, doesn't have a move to hit the Snorlax, which it kind of needed coverage elsewhere, so, there's a good chance it doesn't. Now what, right? This is why that Scarf Lando, it almost won the game on the spot, because now what does Raven King do? Or not Raven King, Excelsior. Once again, I read the King. But, other thing to know. Your only hope of stopping this, the only hope of, well, not this, but the Snorlax, your only hope of stopping a late game Snorlax at this point is just the Tusk. You just need to rip Headlongs into it and hope you deal enough damage. That's just about it, really. That's about all you can do. Right? It's your only out, because these two aren't doing anything. I'm going to tell you right now, Roy Moon isn't doing anything. It's going to click knock off once, and that's it, because I believe we weren't running Outrage. Even then, I don't think it was doing all that much. And Metagross is, I mean, I don't know what the Metagross set is, but I mean, Meteor Mash is only going to do so much, right? So, if you're Excelsior, you need help on this. You actually can't let this go down. Despite the fact that, like, it's ripping this team apart, you actually need to swap this turn. Maybe not on the Protect. Maybe you call the Protect. That's okay. But I do feel you need to let it go. Now, who do you sack, right? You don't want to go Metagross. That's stupid. You don't want to really go Roaring Moon. Okay, well, who even takes a hit? Right. Blaziken. Let's see what this thing. We got CC Blitz, Protect SD. Let's just assume that's the set, right? Your standard set. Oh, would you look at that? Walking Wake always lives. Even if it's Adamant Life Orb, it always lives one. With minimal, even if we're 0 HP, we're still living one a majority of the time, and there's no rocks up, so we don't have to worry about that, right? And if you can't see, this is the number right here, 84 to 100, right? So, okay, Walking Wake always lives one. Okay, so we're not going to go Hard Wake, unless we hard call the Protects, in which case, you're gangster, right? Good shit. You could hard call the Protect here, that's total. I feel that's reasonable. Tusk is faster, that's, you know. The safer play is to just go Kilowattrel. I just want you to ask yourself, what the fuck does Kilowattrel do now that Milo and Venu are dead? Like, you had giant flying moves to hit Venusaur, and you had beautiful Volt Switches to throw into that Milotic. What the fuck do you do now? Snorlax has base 1 trillion SPDF and even more HP, right? Blaziken's faster anyway, so who cares? Lando, I mean, you could do some damage, but it's also Scarf, so like, what? I guess you could be worried about like the Lando ripping Scarf EQ into the rest of your team, so you might want to keep the flying immunity, right? So maybe you do want to hard call the Protect, now that I'm thinking about it. But I feel Kilowattrel is just the most useless mon right now. And if, you know, Lando comes out later and starts ripping EQ, you have a number of mons that you can go to. You have a big sack lead because of this early lead that Tusk built you. I just feel you should be really preserving HP on this Tusk, and I think not doing so is a little bit of a misplay, because I think it's your only chance. Oh, we see Earthquake. Never mind, the game was over. Okay, so, but that's besides the point. We trade the Blaziken for the Tusk. Lando comes out, we see Clear Amulet, but it is Scarf, so it is just going to EQ anyways. We're going to see Wake come in, which I do think is the Rock Slide. Oh, calling Kilowattrel. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. If you're Raven King at this point, I'm already thinking about the Curse Snorlax and how to position it. Because at this point, all you really need to do is get it out in front of something that isn't named Tusk, and you should just win, right? So we see Landorus come hard in on the Metagross, take a trillion from Slam. It's fine. You got EQ. And now we see Tusk die. That's game. Game's over. What do you do to stop Snorlax? Nothing. That's it. That's game. Raven King sets it up perfectly with a Wish, and at this point, and especially because Excelsior is running Heavy Slam, he can't even Meteor. Like that's like probably base -10. It's solo base power. It's probably healing the Snorlax at this point. And he's knocked it off, so Roaring Moon can't do anything. I mean, it's over. There's nothing you can do about it. That is really tough. Now, couple things to note. Excelsior consulted me for team building before this battle, and originally they had Houndstone on the team, right? I talked them out of it. If we hover over this Snorlax, we'll see that it was mono body press. Excelsior would have won this game if it was Houndstone, and the same place went down, right? I still don't think Houndstone is any good here. I do still think it was the right idea to not bring Houndstone. I think it was maybe on me to not catch it, but I was in the middle of moving into college and doing all that shit. So, I don't know. But I do think the biggest issue here was no fighting move on Tusk. I think if it was simply fighting move on Tusk and we preserve it till the end game, we got it. And this is partially on me. I accept responsibility. Don't get me wrong. I'm not accepting full responsibility because at the end of the day, it's not my team. But yeah, the game just about ended when like the only conceivable way Excelsior could beat this cursed Snorlax. And, it's hard to realize this from the onset of this game when we load in here, but even though we don't see it, even though we don't, even if you don't see it in prep, when you load into this battle and you see the Snorlax, Snorlax only ever runs one set. You need to start thinking, how do I not lose to that Snorlax? Right? Just the only way to do that, Great Tusk in the sun. That's it. This is the only way. That's the only way you're going to get through it. So you need to position that. Plain and simple. You need to be able to position that. And Excelsior got rock sled. No more sun. Or at least Raven can stall it out pretty easily. Which is why you're like, despite the fact that you're losing so many mons here, you're pretty okay with it. Because who cares? You have the Snorlax. Right? So this was very this was well played from Raven King, because he did recognize his endgame as soon as it came out. I think Excelsior could have prevented this. It was really hard to, but they could have prevented this. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. And hey, it was only a 2-0 loss. That's not a ton differential. GG's, we can move on, right? But that is all I have for you this week. I want to look at next week's battles, actually. What do we got? I guess you got to zoom in this time. All right, here we go. Let me look at OBS again. What do we got? All right, that's a perfect layout. Ah, what happened? There we go. There we go. All right, that's a little too much. What do we got next week? Wevels versus Cable. Dude, Wevels has the gauntlet of fun battles. What in the world? Sableye versus Litfam is the match to watch, actually. That's a rivalry. Yeah. But we got a really, really good couple of battles next week. I'm excited. It'll be fun. We got Mabel with her new team. Birds still has their new team. Monum versus Typical is the other one that is going to be interesting to watch. But outside of that, thank you so much for watching. If you stuck it all the way through here, I applaud you, because this is somehow the longest video yet, despite the fact that I'm still only doing 3 battles a week. But yeah, that's all I got. Thank you guys so much. I'll see y'all next time.